It's my privilege to introduce the speakers for this next session. And so I would really like to welcome Mr. Stewart Fleming. Now, Stewart is absolutely a gun when it comes to making things registries work. And so for many of you involved in the ANZ Hip Fracture Registry, you don't need any introduction to Stewart. Actually, if you work in registries just about globally when it comes to hip fracture, you probably don't need any introductions to Stewart either. He was the initial creator of the National Hip Fracture Database of the UK in 2007. He has consulted on hip fracture registries to Singapore and Hong Kong. He is now the keeper of the Australia and New Zealand hip fracture registries. Stewart can help you reset passwords, export data, solve any technical issues, and keep the registry ticking along. Stewart can also, though, improve lives. Here is Mr. Stewart Fleming. Thank you, Stu.
Thank you very much. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we stand and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. But I'd also like to acknowledge our tech team. Sound, lighting and video over here, without which you wouldn't hear me, see me. Probably a good thing. Could we give them a round of applause? Sitting over there, keeping everything working, and of course to Jamie and Narelle for actually putting all of this together. Back in 2007, a slightly younger version of me got involved with the NHS, a small organisation. You may have heard of it. I didn't realise at some point it was the largest organisation on the planet, which is pretty cool. But within a year of working on the National Hip Fracture Registry, the ANZHFD as it was called then, it became clear to those that were supervising me that I'd gone rogue. I'd gone off the reservation and I was out working with people in the hospitals and seeing what they do and how they could use the data and how they could do it better. And the reason I tell you all this is because after 15 years, I am still incredibly passionate. Not because I'll ever see a patient or ever see any improvement in a patient's care, but because I get to deal with some of the most amazingly caring and devoted people that I've ever had the good fortune of coming across. Starting with, Mr. Professor David Marsh and Colin Curry, who gave me a copy of the Blue Book and said I must read it. Now, as an IT person, you don't read somebody else's work, you just do what they tell you to do. But eventually I read it. And NHFD's been plugging along ever since, and I've been involved and got to work with, the likes of Paul Mitchell, Jackie Close, Ian Harris, and now Catherine and Jamie and Elizabeth, and all of these amazing people, and Roger. And it really has kept me passionate. So who has a ANZHFR account? Who has a hip fracture? Thank you. Awesome. For those that don't, I'm going to start with a few little reminders about what the thing can do, and then I'm going to talk about what's coming soon. I had hoped to sort of show a little bit more, but for the moment, that's what you're going to get from me, and I'll make room for some bigger brains. I was thinking about it before. I feel like an Ewok in a room full of Wookiees. We're all doing the same thing, but you guys are much taller and bigger. Awesome. So if you've never gone to hipfracture.com.au or hipfracture.co.nz, this is kind of what it looks like. Obviously, the word Australian is different in New Zealand. Please make sure you're on the right one. We had a problem with someone logging in and they were trying to log into New Zealand when they're an Australian user. That doesn't work. Jackie showed the dashboard before, and if you log in, this is what you see. This is not Prince of Wales. This is my little dummy site. But you can see that the quality indicators and the at the time what I thought was important, I guess. And I did have this. This isn't just me working in isolation. I did work with the team. But looking back at this now, I kind of wonder what I was thinking. But I'll show you some more stuff coming up soon. So again, if you've logged in, this is what you get to see. This is like looking at all patients. You'll see it's all just dummy data in there at the moment. I'll try not to move my head too much so the sound guy doesn't have to work too hard. But look, the ability to be able to go in and see data, you can't delete data. That was a rule we set up right at the start. You can overwrite data, but you can't delete it. If you do find that there's a patient in there you absolutely shouldn't have, then you can either overwrite it or send me an email and I'll take it out for you. So as a reminder, the national reports are all available online. So from 2016 through to the current version, you can highlight your particular hospital, you can export that, and you can use that in any presentations. It's static in that it uses historical data. So the national report and these type charts, you will only ever see what we call cleansed data. So at the end of the year, I'll take a slice of the data, we'll then massage it, make it look pretty and take out anything that's obviously wrong, and then that is what is used for the national report. On the left there are the different types of charts that are available online, and this is to the public. You don't need to log in to see any of this. You can go to hipfracture.com.au or .co.nz, and obviously in New Zealand you'd see the New Zealand data, but this is the types of charts you can see, and these are the reports that are included. Just a note, 2016, it was de-identified data, so it's just little numbers there rather than the three-letter report for the hospital. Where are we now? So here we are, custom fields. Now, some functionality that was added more than a year ago now was the ability for you to collect your own data. So there might be something, there was a lot of talk this morning about the minimum common data set, and the Australian Hip Fracture Registry has a data set, which I'm pleased to see that we were almost spot on. I'm very pleased. We have a bit of pride. But yeah, we added this, and so you can record, if you particularly want, you could record any extra pieces of data that you want for each patient. So once you've created one of these fields, you decide whether it's a drop-down text, I can't even read it from here, numeric, oh, it's here. And then you can define a range if it's numeric and all this sort of stuff. So you could do weight, or you could do first meal in hospital and a time for that. I think hair colour was one, yeah, there it is, hair colour was one of our drop-downs. I don't know why you'd want to, but you can if you want. This data is also available for export, so we obviously don't report on it at a national level, but you can export that data at any point and run your own analysis. It exports to Excel. All right. The other thing is, if you're using the registry, we've built in a whole lot of tooltips. So if you hover over any of the eyes, again, this is probably pretty obvious stuff, but I just want to remind everybody that the information is in there. It comes straight from the data dictionary. So rather than pull out the, 96-page data dictionary and try and look up what that means, where we can, we've tried to make it really obvious and make that available. And the reason we've done all of this is to try and make it simple for people to collect data and get it right. So that's our reminders. Some information on what's coming soon. So exception captures. So just recently we've added the ability to capture unlikely fracture type operation combinations. So if it's unlikely that with that particular fracture type you would do that operation, it will give you a warning. Again, it's only a warning. You can just click, okay, that's fine. That's what actually happened. For some reason, that was the one that was used. But rather than let it sort of slip through to the keeper and then find it at the end of the year, we're now sort of trying to improve our data at every step. And along those lines, one of the new features that I'm working on at the moment is the ability to generate a monthly report on your own data. So it would give you things like any data errors, any warnings, and a figure on completeness, so how complete are all of the records. And that is, we'll be doing that both via the option for email and also for alerts. And if it gets crazy, someone's going to phone you and say, hang on, what's going on here? This doesn't look right. In the past, so for the last few years, the way we've done it is data validation at the end of the year, and what we've found is that just people have left, moved on, can't find the records. So doing it monthly gives us a bigger chance of getting it right. So new administration tools coming out, as I said, the warnings and errors, and we've already got the completeness report. Who uses the completeness when you hover over completeness and it gives you the list of values that aren't included in that particular record? Yeah, few? Yep. Useful? Yep. Excellent. If there's anything like that, where you find yourself doing something multiple times, please send me an email. Let me know. One of the reasons in the UK they said I'd gone off the reservation was that I'd go and sit with a nurse and just watch them for a couple of hours, how they did it. And what I'd find is people are very inventive with finding ways of doing stuff that I'd already created a button for. I just particularly sucked at making the button obvious. And so by watching how people actually work, it was really, really useful. And I think that was like one of the reasons that NHFD grew so quickly was that the rumours, the scuttlebutt was that this is actually pretty easy. It's not a huge burden because we were asking overworked people to do more work. And that really is the case here as well. We're asking overworked nurses to do, in most cases nurses, to do more work, which is why I'm so passionate about trying to make it easy, because without this we can't improve in performance. The other thing that's coming in that we're adding is activity monitoring. Again, it's not a name and shame kind of thing. It's for your hospital to see what's going on. So you can see if a user hasn't logged in for 6 months, they may probably have left and we can remove them, that sort of thing. All right, so I hope it comes across that everything we do, or everything certainly I try and do, is to make life easier for our data collectors and to try and give them back information that they can use in their hospital. I was just talking before about a particular report I ran for Nottingham Hospital in the UK, where they wanted to know the average length of stay by day of week admission. So give me the length of stay for all the people admitted on a Monday and compare that for everybody on a Tuesday, etc. And Tuesdays were, I think there was an increase of 30% length of stay. And they knew why. Anyone want to guess that who doesn't already know the answer? Why are Tuesdays patients staying in hospital longer? Yes? Close, really close. You get a bronze star, no, a silver star. It was paediatrics that booked out all the surgical slots for the Wednesday. Didn't want to come in more than one day. So they knew that was the case, but when they showed the data to the financial controllers, obviously that changed overnight. We're not doing that anymore. So looking at your data in interesting ways, when you see that there's a problem, is there a way that we could slice the data so that it tells the right story so that you can use it? I'll keep moving because I've got 1 minute left. All right, so this is the old, this is cool. Okay, so this is the current dashboard. This is kind of what I want it to look like. And the ability to, each one of those to be widgets, and you can pick and choose what you want. Obviously the gauges are moments in time, graphs with trends, the average time to surgeries, time in ED and length of stays, and of course being able to see things via states and being able to drill down to states. I love longitudinal data. I think it's very, very sexy. And the more we can get of it and the more I can give it into your hands, the better. I know that's like the nerdiest thing any Ewok ever said, but I really do. All right, that's me. Thank you very much. If you've got any suggestions at all, admin@hipfracture.com.au. My phone number's on the bottom. I may not remember what you look like because we've only met once, but please, if you've got any suggestions at all, please send them straight through. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Jackie.